You had a double system. You had the system which was meant for the it was a school system which was meant for the common population, common people, and where you had a four-year school, and after that you continued in again another part which was 4 years, and then you had the system which was supposed to lead to a gymnasium, that is a senior second degree education, and then ultimately to a university. What happened was that this old system, which was the basis of the education, which was 4+4, began to atrophy. It lost more and more pupils because the parents wanted to send their children to the other system. And the other system, which was built on the old ideal that this is the way the educated class, the elite of the society will be educated, it just could not take it. And this phenomenon actually was first observed in Sweden. And both in Sweden and Finland, this was something the Social Democrats were the advocates of, and this created the idea that we have to renew the educational system totally. And renewing the educational system led to a unified 9-year comprehensive school. Now, this was introduced, again, what I'm saying, I'll come back to Sweden in a couple of comments. The unified 9-year comprehensive school was something which was introduced in 1972. The ideological controversy was comparable to the debate we've had in many countries, and I know Germany well. And for Germany, you've been fighting it nail and tooth in order because it was considered to be socialist, and it was something which was considered to be something which would degenerate the whole school system. The harsh criticism was really, I mean, you had a real Kulturkampf. You had a real battle of souls for the preservation of culture. The interesting thing is that this died down relatively fast, and it is non-existent today. There's absolutely no criticism of the decision to introduce a 9-year to introduce the comprehensive school. And this is the success story of the Finnish reform. And what is the success? The introduction of this school system started from the north. It was started province by province, and I very well remember it because my youngest sister-in-law, my wife's youngest sister, she was one of them who started her school in the comprehensive school. Now, this was technical, but the most important thing is that the reform was accompanied by a total overhaul of the teachers' education system. All teachers, including pre-primary, that is kindergarten, teachers, received an academic level education with a university degree. This increased competence, enhanced competence, and prestige. The teacher's profession has always been respected in Scandinavia. It's part of the Lutheran tradition that you respected the pastor and you respected the teacher. But the teacher's profession became attractive and actually very popular. Today, the numbers, and this is something which you will encounter in very few countries in Europe today. Today, the number of candidates who apply for teacher training is 5 times higher than the actual intake. we have practically no lack of competent teachers. Occasionally, but no lack of competent teachers, because there's the salary these teachers get is not especially high. You could actually, the papers are full of complaints that especially the kindergarten teachers who have an academic degree should be paid more. Now, one of the results, and this is getting interesting, is that there are no private schools in Finland. There's no law forbidding private schools, but there are no private schools. There are a couple, there's some. In practice, all education is financed from tax revenue. Private education for money does not exist in practice. The few educational institutions run by private organizations adhere to the same objectives and standards as the public schools. Their operations are publicly funded, etc. And this is where we come to a contrast with Sweden. I mean, it all began in Sweden, the influential, the mighty Swedish Social Democratic Party, which is in many ways the organizer of the Nordic model, introduced the comprehensive school, and the criticism inside Sweden never died. And it saw a proliferation of private schools, the free schools. And all of this was ideological. And it's the irony is that we didn't go that way. And there's no real, I'm not a historian of the school system, nor am I an expert in schooling. I do not have the answer and the explanation why this is the case, but I suspect that it was the question of the internal development of the society. It became an ideological issue that you demanded the right to create free schools, so-called private schools called free schools. The Finnish school reform was a copy, a carbon copy of the Swedish reform, and both countries originally adhered to the same model. It was funny to be in Germany, where the Finnish school system was considered to be one of the more interesting ones, and the OECD PISA results proved that Finland had attained a high level in its schooling system, and the German reactions or comments included accusations and even insinuations that Finland had copied the GDR school system. Well, that's plain silly. There was next to no interaction or cultural exchange between Finland and the GDR in the 1960s when the decisions were prepared. Later, there was a lot of interaction in the 70s and 80s, but the whole thing is a red herring. It doesn't have any. The question which I encountered in Germany again and again was that don't you have an education system for the elite? And I had to say, we don't have one. The difference between the level of education in Helsinki and a small municipality in the east or in the north or in the west is not really significant. You have good schools in the whole country. Then you have better schools and you have excellent schools, but there's no elite education. And this was something which was very difficult in Germany to understand. And I can imagine that it is even more difficult to understand in Russia. If you follow the Russian, Russia is full of Russia is in the midst of an educational debate, and with a lady as the Minister for Education who has very sure views of what should be done, and occasionally she and a couple of other people have been saying that actually the Finnish school system, which has been praised, is following the Soviet model. Well, что вам сказать? Советский Союз ради на слонов, так? The real answer to all of this is that Finland is part of the Shvedski mir and not of Ruski mir. Da. Now, just to give you a quick overview of the system, Finland is a small country. All Scandinavian countries, we're all in, Finland is 5.5 million, Sweden is 10, all of Scandinavia, the Nordic countries, is 25 million. That is as much as is the Benelux, that is the Netherlands, Belgium and Luxembourg together. So we're small countries, and the comparison to large countries and a country with a huge population like Russia are always difficult. But the school system is based on the fact that there are national standards that exist for the content of pre-primary care. Even kindergartens are guarded by national standards. The municipalities are obliged to provide children with transport. Now, this sounds like an easy thing, but I remember when the former Estonian president, now already not among us anymore, Lennart Meri, shocked his Estonian audience when he told them that in the Finnish countrysides, in municipalities which with very long distances, children are taken to school by taxis. And there was he was not believed that how can the children ride taxis to schools? But this was the system. This is the system. The municipalities are obliged to provide children with transport, which requires, of course, in a small municipality, smaller cars. You don't need you don't need enormous buses to transport children. All municipalities adhere to the same objectives and standards as the public schools. Their operations are publicly funded. Let me now, no, right. So municipalities are obliged to provide children with transport. The municipalities are the key to the school system. It is the municipalities who run the schools. The government reimburses 25% of their cost, and this is what I already said. Standard levels of education vary very little, although municipalities differ. There are municipalities which are much more keen on school, on promoting their school or taking care of the teachers than others. And there's an important thing is, of course, there's a uniform qualification of teachers because they all go through the university system of pedagogical schools. Only the core curriculum is defined by the National Agency for Education. The municipalities base their own curriculum on the national core curriculum, and ultimately schools prepare their own individual plans. Local emphasis and additions are allowed. So again, there's a large autonomy inside a general framework. Now, this is the comprehensive school. When the comprehensive schools ends after 9 years, you have two possibilities. You have three possibilities, and the third one is, of course, problematic. That is that you don't do anything. The number of pupils who do not continue on a second level is rather small, but it is still there, and it's considered to be a national problem. That is, if youngsters stop their school with 15, 16 years, they have no basis on the labor market. So half of the pupils continue in on the secondary, senior secondary level, which in other languages is called gymnasium, or they attend vocational schools. Both upper secondary and vocational educations are free, including lunches, although they have to buy their own textbooks, etc. Now, just to conclude my remarks, I would say that it is the history of which explains this, and it's the history of the cultural tradition of a strong Lutheran church, which is of course not anymore as dominant as it was. It is the cultural heritage of that school, and the whole idea that education is part of a human being's most important skills. Ideology has played no role in the last decades. It is a generally accepted and supported view that the school is actually the core function of a society in a advanced society, and a society that requires more and better educated citizens. The autonomy of the school is very important, and the autonomy of the teachers. It is the basis for creativity, and it functions well. It is again reflects the society. The society in a country which is ruled by law and which is deeply democratic as a parliamentary democracy. Understands the importance of freedom and autonomy, and the traditions are very strong. The challenges ahead are to raise the level of teacher education and to make sure that the teachers' jobs do not lose the prestige which they enjoy today. Well, this is